So, you want to give the nod to the season, but you also want to make sure all your students feel included. Good for you. I've been privileged for a lot of my life to see the holidays I celebrate centered in the United States, but I've also had plenty of opportunities to see what it's like beyond this glow of feeling like the things that you care about are centered. I've lived in 4 other countries, and in some of them, the holidays I'm used to are not very important at all. I worked at one school where I had the role of international student coordinator, and I got to talk to lots of students who brought other cultural traditions into our school about how they might represent some of their favorite traditions and celebrations, how they might share them with others, and how they weren't always the ones getting a lot of attention already. I've married into a family that has a different religious background than mine, and I've been able to see how the centering of some traditions over others have affected my in-laws. It means a lot to have your traditions acknowledged at any age, whether you're 5 years old at preschool, you're in high school, you're a mother-in-law, and you want to see that your grandchildren care about your traditions. There's all kinds of times when this is relevant. But I'll be the first to say it's not uncomplicated territory in the classroom. Maybe that's why I've been working on this podcast for so long. I know that I've messed up over the years. I know that I've learned. I know that I've evolved. I keep on trying to figure things out. I very much believe that when we can expand our cultural viewpoints, we all benefit. Now, of course, maybe you're listening and thinking that your school or community won't allow you to discuss or celebrate any type of holiday at school. I can understand the circumstances that might lead there. And if that's the case, you might want to choose a different episode to listen to today. But if, like me, you've always loved giving a nod to big days on the calendar throughout the year, and you're able to do so, I've got some ideas to share today. Ways to enjoy fun, wintry activities in the next few weeks that make space for kids to celebrate different kinds of special days that they might want to talk about or share in writing. Maybe they're celebrating Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, Christmas, Lunar New Year, maybe a snow day, or one of the many other holidays flowing out of our rich, worldwide blend of cultures. So let's talk about some options. Welcome to the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers looking for more. More creativity, more engagement, more joy. And no more scripted curriculum, lesson planning ruts, or boring book lists. I'm Betsy Potash, and I'm honored you're trusting me to help. You're not alone on this creative journey anymore. Before we dive into different activities and projects, it might be useful to start by talking about how you can figure out what holidays your students celebrate, what holidays you actually want to make space for in your classroom because they're mattering to kids who are there or friends of kids who are there. Liz Kleinrock has been on this podcast a couple of times before. I got to talk to her, 7 years ago maybe, about how to talk with kids about taboo subjects. And then again, when her lovely book came out, giving a guide to anti-racist practices in the classroom. And now I've noticed that she's written a lovely children's book called Come and Join Us with the co-author. And this is a really cool book because it's a very quick visual explanation of many of the holidays students celebrate throughout the year. It showcases 18 different holidays from a huge range of different backgrounds. So it can help you be more aware of important days that might be coming up for your kiddos. If you display this book, Come and Join Us, in your choice reading library, or even if you just have it like on your pedagogy shelf, it's just a chance for you to quickly see, oh, here's what's coming up. Maybe I can be aware of this for my students. Another option for figuring out what holidays are important in your community is just to ask kids. You might invite them to share a day that's really important to their culture as part of a survey, or you might have a class calendar that you flip every month, and you could take 5 minutes and be like, hey, if it's your birthday this month, add it to the calendar. If you have a big holiday that's important to you this month, add it to the calendar. And that way, just with a quick glance, you can see, okay, students from this background actually have like kind of a sad holiday today, and I might want to be respectful or supportive of their holiday. Or students, are feasting today, or maybe students are celebrating Ramadan and they're fasting today. Like there's so many different things that could be helpful for you to know about as well as celebrate with your students. All right, so once you have a sense of different holidays that your students might be celebrating this winter, let's talk about some different ways that you can engage them with some seasonal activities that are respectful of all different sorts of holidays. So the first one I want to talk about, I mentioned before, it's a makerspace holiday story. And I got this idea after conversations with Angela Stockman and reading her books and thinking about her work. The idea is that students will design a holiday setting with whatever maker materials you might have on hand or whatever art materials they might have at home. And the holiday setting can be for any holiday that's important to them. So some students may choose something that's right at this moment of the year. They can also choose any type of holiday. And once they've created the setting, then they're gonna set a story inside it. And this is so fun. It's amazing how that little bit of art or building, the making part, generates ideas in your head, right? You create this tiny barn or this beautiful room with a canopied bed or this beach or whatever. And then all of a sudden you start to think, what would happen here? Who are the types of characters that might show up in this space? What might be going on for them? And it's just a really fun kind of physical prompt that can lead students in creative directions to write a holiday story. I've designed the full curriculum for this and in fact gave it a complete overhaul last year to make it better and to make it as inclusive as I could. And so that is a free download that you can just grab through the show notes today if you'd like to try out this project. Okay, another idea is to explore digital poetry tiles. I had created a winter poetry digital tiles kit thinking about the holidays of winter, and I tried to include words that students could be dragging and dropping around the screen, just kind of like a magnetic poetry type of activity, except online. And I created the words connected to Diwali, Hanukkah, Christmas, and Kwanzaa, as well as plenty of words that just focus on different fun wintry experiences and family time. I really tried to make it inclusive as a poetry scaffold to help kids write about whatever was meaningful for them at this time of year. So I did do an episode way back when, which I'm going to link, that will show you how to create a kit like this. It takes a little while, but it's actually really fun. And you can create something that will help your students celebrate what's important to them. It's the kind of thing you can use again and again. You can use it this December, next December, every December, forever. And so, that's a good feeling when you're putting the work into making it. Another fun thing you can do at this time of year is to give your attendance questions a winter spin, and you can have them kind of nod to some of the holidays that you know that your students are celebrating in a subtle way if you want to. So you could put up sort of an image-based question on the board. Would they rather see northern lights? Would they rather do a sauna and then jump in a frozen lake? Would they rather watch a fireworks show or build a snow fort? Would they rather eat jelly donuts or cake donuts? Just little fun things that maybe have a bit of connection to the holidays that's fun, but that also are just enjoyable wintry things. Okay, there are two visual projects I love for the end of the year that can allow you to sort of have closure at the end of 2024 or whatever year you're in when you're listening to this, and then have like a nice sense of purpose as you open the next year. And here's the thing. Solar calendar is what gives us New Year's Eve on December 31st and New Year's Day on January 1st. There's also, of course, the lunar calendar, which changes a little bit from year to year. For next year, the lunar calendar will rotate on January 29th. So on January 29th, there will be a new year for those who celebrate the New Year through the lunar calendar, and it will be called the Year of the Snake. So if you can just open up your language a little bit as you introduce the idea of doing a 6-word memoir for the year or doing a 1-word project for the next year, you can make it a little bit more inclusive. You can talk a little bit about sort of the end of the solar calendar and the end of the lunar calendar and the beginning of the new solar year and how, soon it will be the beginning of the new lunar year. And that way you'll be including the millions of folks who will be celebrating both, right? There are many cultures who celebrate the Lunar New Year and for whom that moment, the flip to the new lunar year is like maybe the most significant holiday of the year. And then for those with the solar calendar, it's kind of like a low-key holiday that's fun. And so you can honor both with the projects. Okay, another fun thing at this time of year is to write holiday lipograms. Really, a lipogram project is fun any time of the year. I have loved this ever since Melissa Alter-Smith introduced me to it when we were collaborating together on some curriculum for the Lighthouse. The idea with a lipogram is that students will create a poem that only uses one vowel, or at least this twist on the lipogram that Melissa shared with me. And so you have them generate words for their lipogram that all have one vowel. Maybe they choose O, maybe they choose A, whatever. But I like to give them a series of pictures that kind of relate to winter and let them come up with their own list of words based on those pictures. And then I give them a series of a bunch of emotions that kind of relate to the holiday season. And I invite them to come up with their own list of words. And again, the pictures and the emotions you use could relate to many holidays, could just sort of be seasonal for winter and sort of guide students into whatever kind of cultural memories of holidays that they want to use to write their poem. So when I did this activity, my poem actually didn't end up being about a holiday at all. It ended up being about a snowball fight. And that was a lot of fun because it is so challenging. You won't believe how challenging it is to try to write a poem with just one vowel. All right, another fun thing to do in this time of year that really applies to every student's cultural background and holidays is to host a winter break book tasting. And instead of calling it like a Christmas break book tasting, we'll just call it a winter break book tasting. And this is just a wonderful thing to do at this time of year because it's fun and because you can send students home with a great book to read over winter vacation. I have created all the curriculum for this for you, which I will also link in the show notes. It's just a free download. And it's just a really great end to the year. Okay, another activity for this season would be to try out winter poetry one-pagers. I love the collection of winter poems over at the Poetry Foundation. I just love how extensive it is. I haven't read them all. I can't promise that, but they have so many possible options for you if you'd like to dig into some seasonal poetry in December. And I think it would be fun to do this with a poetry one-pager activity and create sort of a wall of beautiful wintry one-pagers on display either out in your hallway or your door or your bulletin board to kind of just dig into the season and enjoy the lyricism of these poems about the time of year that we're in. Okay, last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about A Christmas Carol. I think this one is interesting. I was asked this year to design curriculum around A Christmas Carol for a school district, and I enjoyed the project so much, and I got to love this story even more than I already did. I mean, obviously, I've read it, I've seen the movies, I've been to see the play at the Guthrie Theater in Minnesota, and so I already knew it, but reading it again and writing curriculum around it just made me like it even more, and it also made me understand the political context even more than I already did. I mean, I've read Oliver Twist, I had hard times in college in one of my courses, but I didn't think of A Christmas Carol as being somehow as Dickensian, as focused on politics as those other stories. And what I learned as I did a lot more research and sort of looked at the annotated edition and watched some of the background given by an expert at the British Library and yada, 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 is that it's actually a super political story, and that Dickens was really writing it to try to change the world as much as he was trying to do with like Oliver Twist. And because he did it in this package that was really packageable, marketable, like the messaging was fun as well as extremely pointed, he was able to reach a ton of people with his ideas, and he's still reaching them now, right? We're talking about this today on this podcast because it's such a common thing to include in your curriculum. And so I love that about it. I love that you can showcase Dickens's ideas, his era, what he was trying to do, and the power of the pen to create change with this actually like quite short, fun story. But then there's the fact that it's about Christmas, right? A holiday that not all students celebrate, a holiday that is already largely centered across the United States at this time of year. And so to have it as a whole class canonical choice, like presents us with these questions of sort of, is this okay? How is this going to make students feel who don't celebrate Christmas? Where do we go from here? And I've been thinking about it a lot. And what I think is the context of your classroom matters a lot. If you're celebrating other cultures in the poems that you choose, in the voices that you're lifting up in your choice reading program, in your first chapter Friday reads, if you're making space for a lot of different voices in your classroom, then Dickens's A Christmas Carol is one of many threads, right? That are weaving together your story in your classroom. And in that respect, I think it can really work. It's a great example of Dickens. It's a great example of art making an impact. And so that's just really what I want to think about when I think about teaching Dickens as A Christmas Carol. I think it can be a great addition if it's done with that larger picture of diverse literature, diverse poetry, diverse perspectives, so that students are getting a chance to feel like, wow, there are a lot of different possibilities, stories, cultural reference points, moments being celebrated in this classroom. And it's not just about a single story. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. I think we're done. We talked about a lot of different possibilities. Let's do a quick review. There's the makerspace holiday stories, winter digital poetry, fun attendance questions that help you come together with your students and build community, where you can just kind of nod to fun things going on. Celebrating New Year's with 6-word memoirs and 1-word projects, but having that twist that you really acknowledge both the lunar and solar calendar, holiday lipograms, winter break book tasting, winter poetry 1-pagers, and also we chat a little bit about Dickens. All right, my friend, that's all for now. Thanks so much for joining me today to talk about a complicated topic. I'll be the first to say I don't think I have all the answers. I'm just trying to share some of my thoughts as an evolving educator. Until next time, take care of yourself and stay creative.